This is the international king of swerve, Shane Strickland, and you're watching Wrestling with Regret. Whose house? Swerve's house.
Every year, the month of May can be a bittersweet time for wrestling fans of a certain age. Quite often, this time of year can stir up old memories and emotions, both good and bad, about the Rocket, Owen Hart. Owen was born on May 7, 1965, the youngest child of the massive Hart clan. Despite being born into the business, Owen originally tried to find work outside of wrestling before eventually settling on it as a career. After spending his early years in Canada, England, and Japan, Owen would find his way to the World Wrestling Federation, where, after a couple of false starts as the Blue Blazer and as the parachute pants-wearing partner of Koko B. Ware, he came into his own to become one of the best and most respected performers in company history. Whether he was the black sheep fighting for his family's respect, a take-no-BS lone wolf Black Heart, a member of the Nation of Domination, or playing up the comedy as the Nugget, Owen had the in-ring ability and the charisma to pull off most anything. Sadly, fans around the world have spent the last 20 years thinking about what could have been with Hart after a stunt gone horribly wrong led to Owen falling to his death at the Over the Edge pay-per-view on May 23, 1999, just 2 weeks after his 34th birthday. But this week's video is not meant to drudge up the tragedy or the what-ifs. It's meant to be a celebration of Owen's career in the WWF, which deserves to be appreciated. This week, I'm going to rank them the top 8 best Owen Hart matches and moments in the World Wrestling Federation. Number 8. Owen Hart, Tag Team Specialist. Throughout his career, not only was Owen a gifted singles performer, but his experience as a tag team wrestler was equally impressive. His early years in the World Wrestling Federation were known for his short-lived alliances with brother-in-law Jim Neidhart, as well as the aforementioned Koko B. Ware. But Hart made up for those lackluster runs in a big way by being involved in 3 highly successful tandems in the mid to late 1990s. Beginning at WrestleMania 11 in 1995, former world champion Yokozuna was revealed as Owen's mystery partner as they beat the Smoking Guns for the tag team titles, the highlight of which was Hart's jubilant celebration after the victory. The two dominated the tag division for the better part of that year, finally dropping the titles to Shawn Michaels and Diesel at the 3rd ever In Your House event, only for the decision to be reversed on a technicality. The restored tag champs lost the belts back to the Guns the same night they were awarded them back. Soon after that team's dissolution, Owen began teaming with brother-in-law Davey Boy Smith to even greater success, winning the belts in September of 1996, holding them for more than 240 days, wrestling one of the best matches in Raw history together, more on that later, and helping provide the base for the new Hart Foundation alongside older brother Bret, Jim Neidhart, and Brian Pillman. Boy, that's a lot of denim. His final tag team run began in the summer of '98 when he began to partner with Mr. Don't Piss Me Off, Jeff Jarrett. With the alluring Deborah Marshall in their corner, the two are one of the most despised teams in the WWF, winning tag team gold in January of '99 before becoming the first ones to drop the belts to the new team of X-Pac and Kane. Despite the different pairings, the common thread between them was Owen's in-ring prowess and his impeccable heel work. Number 7. Owen does color commentary, King of the Ring, 1996. By 1996, Jerry Lawler was a fixture on the WWF announce desk, but because he was booked to wrestle the Ultimate Warrior at that year's King of the Ring pay-per-view, a replacement was needed. Enter the black sheep of the Hart family himself.
What are you doing just standing around here? I want to give you my expertise. Come on, let's get on with the show.
Despite having no experience in announcing for an entire broadcast, Owen performed his role to perfection, carrying on the tradition of the heel color commentator with his own personal style. Owen was a terrific prickish heel throughout the entire event, showing a ridiculous bias toward the heels, especially his brother-in-law, Davey Boy Smith.
Explain that. I slipped off the apron. I went to congratulate him, and I slipped. No. That was close. That looked like a 3 count to me. I don't know why Ahmed Johnson is so mad at Goldust. He didn't do anything but save his life. We got a new champion in the family. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. Michaels will not give it up. I think he said yes.
Owen's Slammy-worthy performance showed he didn't have to be in the ring to excellently execute storytelling, able to endure the entirety of the show in this role before the post-main event beatdown. Number 6. The birth of the Blackheart. The end of 1997 was a strange, tumultuous time in the World Wrestling Federation. Fans everywhere were still reeling in the aftermath of the Montreal screwjob at that year's Survivor Series. Bret's departure from the company saw Jim Neidhart and the British Bulldog leave in solidarity with their brother-in-law, leaving Owen as the Federation's last remaining Hart. Owen took a brief respite from the company following the screw job, only to re-emerge near the end of the year by coming out of the crowd and attacking world champion Shawn Michaels. On a December episode of Raw, Mr. McMahon asked Owen to explain himself. Right away, fans could see the change in Owen's demeanor. It was a darker side of his personality, bitter and bent on revenge for what happened to his brother. Probably the most serious promo he ever cut, this speech was the beginning of his time as the Blackheart.
This is real life, my reputation, my respect, my dignity.
It was an example of the line between fantasy and real life blurred beyond recognition, one of the company's hallmarks with Vince Russo as head writer. Owen's Montreal Revenge tour reached its apex in a title match between he and HBK on the final Raw of the year, only for it to end in a DQ. Sadly, the angle pretty much fizzled out after Owen joined the Nation of Domination in some kind of reverse affirmative action, kind of going against the whole lone wolf vibe they were going for. It was a curious tweak to his character with real-life origins that could have gone somewhere, but ultimately halted due to politics and the pencil. Number 5. Owen wins the WWF Championship. One of the biggest questions surrounding Owen Hart's career has always been, should he have become the World Wrestling Federation champion? Had he lived, would he have eventually won the gold? We may never know the answer, but for one brief glimmering moment in 1994, we got a taste of what could have been. In a match that can only be found on a single Coliseum video, in August of that year, Bret and Owen Hart took part in a lumberjack match for the championship in Portland, Maine. The match doesn't go very long before Jim Neidhart interferes on the Rockets' behalf, ending with Owen pinning his older brother and being named the new world champion. However, the decision would be reversed and the match would continue, ending with Bret retaining the gold. So there it is, the closest Owen ever got to becoming the top dog in the company. As quick as it was nice while it lasted, though one can only imagine how much the landscape of the Federation might have changed had they followed through with it. Number 4. Owen Hart vs. Steve Austin. In the spring of 1997, Owen and Bulldog finally lost their tag titles to the unlikely duo of Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin. From there, a singles feud between Hart and the Rattlesnake began as the Hart Foundation pressed on in their war with the United States. After an emotional 10-man tag match at Canadian Stampede that saw Owen pin Austin for the win, the two met up at SummerSlam for Hart's Intercontinental Championship. The match famously ends on a botched piledriver that injured Austin's neck into an audible finish that saw Owen have to sell the worst roll-up in history. As Austin recovered from surgery, Owen took full advantage of the controversy, sporting a brand new piece of Owen 316 merch. What was seen as the exploitation of a serious injury drew an insane amount of fan heat, both for Owen and the Federation at large, which was the desired reaction. It was his callous response to his actions that set things up perfectly for when Austin was cleared to wrestle again at the end of the year. After Owen regained the IC title in the tournament, he and Stone Cold met for the belt at Survivor Series, with Austin walking out victorious. Despite the angle almost getting totally derailed due to a freak accident in the ring, it remains one of Owen's strongest rivalries in the company, one that would help cement Steve Austin's legacy as an unbreakable badass who would lead the company to great success. Number 3. Owen Hart vs. the British Bulldog for the European Championship. In the weeks leading up to WrestleMania 13, the World Wrestling Federation decided to introduce the European Championship, their first new title in 2 decades. The inaugural champion was decided by a tournament, with the finals taking place on an episode of Raw in Germany, and the 2 finalists just happened to be brothers-in-law and co-holders of the tag team titles, Owen and the British Bulldog. As the announcers and the fans wondered if the tag champs were going to implode over this newly created belt, Owen and Davey Boy spent about 20 minutes wrestling a great scientific matchup instead. So fluid, so fast, and relatively clean, it was a technical masterpiece that had the crowd hanging on every moment. The two told the story of family members who knew each other's every move, with some flashes of a more European style of wrestling for the live audience. In the end, the Bulldog pinned Owen and was crowned the first European champion, easily one of the best main events in the history of Monday Night Raw. The match begat a storyline that saw increased tension between the tag champs until Bret Hart brought them back together to create the new Hart Foundation. Also, it gave us a great gem on commentary in which the Honky Tonk Man busts out a Stu Hart impression apropos of nothing.
Owen Hart. It looks like Owen's taking liberties with Davey Boy.
Number 2. Owen steals his second Slammy. It's often been said just how good of a wrestler Owen was back in the day, but another quality about him that's brought up just as much, if not more so, was his gregarious nature and his ability to make others around him happy. His in-ring pranks and other various backstage ribs are considered the stuff of legend. This next entry is probably one of the most public examples of his fun-loving personality. March 21st, Chicago, Illinois, the date and location of the infamous 1997 Slammy Awards. It was the first year of the Slammys to include joke nominees, such as Cosmo Kramer for the Loose Screw Award or Siegfried and Roy for the Best Couple Award. We also saw that TGIF icon Steve Urkel nominated for the Best Tie Award, a prize that never saw an official winner, as presenter Owen Hart showed up and took it.
I did it again!
Yes!
And I have nobody to thank. Once again, I did it all by my sweet little self.
To have such a good comedic heel like Hart just up and steal an award, then act as if he won it legitimately is brilliant in and of itself. But what helps make the moment even better is the reaction by the British Bulldog. Look at that man's smile. These two are supposed to be in the midst of a teased breakup angle, and Davey Boy has the happiest look in all the land as Owen crows about his so-called accomplishment.
Hey, Bulldog! You may have 2 titles, but you don't have 2 Slammies!
He was only on stage for less than a minute, but in stealing the spotlight for a gag, in that moment the 2-time Slammy Award winner made the ceremony a little more tolerable to watch, a small example of his infectious charm. Before I give you the number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Owen Hart vs. Ken Shamrock. In the aftermath of WrestleMania 14, Owen briefly teamed with UFC transfer Ken Shamrock before turning on him in a fit of rage and joining the Nation. After Shamrock returned from his injuries, the feud was officially back on track in a memorable way, featuring the debut of 2 of the most obscure stipulation matches in Federation history. The first being the Dungeon match at Fully Loaded 1998, filmed on location in the Hart family dungeon with Dan Severn and his mustache as special guest referee. Owen would win the match with a well-placed dumbbell shot, leading to a rematch at that year's SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden. This time, the Nugget and the World's Most Dangerous Man squared off in the first ever Lion's Den match, a dodecagon-shaped structure made of wire fencing and an obvious homage to the octagon in MMA. Like Owen in the dungeon, Shamrock emerged triumphant on his home turf, but unfortunately, we never got to see a rubber match to determine the winner of this feud. The return of the Blue Blazer. The second incarnation of the Blue Blazer is a bittersweet one. While this was the angle that resulted in Owen's untimely death, the return of the gimmick was highly entertaining for its time. After injuring Dan Severn in kayfabe with the same move that legitimately shortened Steve Austin's career, Owen decided to quit from wrestling. But right afterward, the Blue Blazer returned as a holier-than-thou character who decried the company's mature content. Based on the tried-and-true plot device of obvious masked man is obvious, this version had a twist in that Jeff Jarrett would occasionally show up in the outfit to prove it wasn't Owen. And once they even used a third man who looked suspiciously different for some reason. The Blazer was popular enough he was slated to challenge the Godfather for the Intercontinental Championship at Over the Edge, a match which sadly never took place. And the number 1 Owen Hart moment in the World Wrestling Federation is Owen vs. Bret. The truth is, Owen's feud with Bret was so vast and deep, it's impossible to pick just one match or moment above all else. Simply put, it was more than a year of wonderful storytelling by both men. Beginning in the fall of 1993, Owen teamed with Bret and their brothers Bruce and Keith for a match at the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Owen was the only one from his team eliminated by Shawn Michaels and his Knights. Yes, you're right, it doesn't make sense because Shawn was a last-minute replacement for Jerry Lawler. And after the match, he threw a fit at his brother. The tension eased until the Royal Rumble when, after failing to win the tag titles from the Quebecers, Owen famously kicked Bret's leg out from under his leg, leading to their absolute classic opening match at WrestleMania 10. Owen won that contest, pitting brother versus brother, only for Bret to have the last laugh by the end of the night, beating Yokozuna for the World Championship. After winning the King of the Ring tournament that June and dubbing himself the King of Hearts, a rematch was on for that year's SummerSlam, this time for the championship and in a steel cage. Another fantastic performance from both men ensued, ultimately ending with the older brother coming out on top and retaining the title. Owen would exact some revenge on his brother with a masterclass in acting at Survivor Series 1994. Sitting at ringside, he looked on as his older brother was locked in Bob Backlund's cross-faced chicken wing for approximately 20 minutes. Looking remorseful and racked with emotion, a desperate Owen pleaded with his mother to throw in the towel, and once she finally did, the ruse was revealed, as Owen admitted to manipulating his parents to cost his brother the match and the championship. After costing Bret the title once again at the '95 Royal Rumble, Bret finally got payback on Owen in a rematch, finally putting an end to their strife, for the time being at least. A lengthy storyline chock full of emotional twists and turns, hope and betrayal, this was the angle that led to the Blackheart's career taking off like a rocket. The storyline that helped Owen break out of the pack and establish himself as one of the most dastardly heels in the World Wrestling Federation. It was the story that turned him into a star, and that's why Owen Hart's feud with older brother Bret is his best WWF career moment. Got any that I missed? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm Brian Zane, and we still miss you, Owen.
I'm the best wrestler in this damn federation. Here's the part where I hit my move. So get ready. I'm not a nugget. I truly am the most dangerous man. I tried to be a nice guy. Woo! Who's the nugget now? You are pathetic. I am the most dangerous man of the Hart family. Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Nobody gets out of my sharpshooter. You're looking at the pride of Calgary.